The LCS Challengers League is brought to you by Turo, the world's largest car-sharing marketplace. Find your drive.
Subway's now slicing their meats fresh. Try a new deli hero from the Subway series and taste the difference for yourself.
And welcome everyone to our Subway halftime refresh, a much needed refresh because we're getting a 3-game series. Let's go. That's what you can always hope for when you get to have a bigger match. And it was funny because obviously our very first game, Winthrop at the beginning of it did not look like they're in any way placed to be winning it. They make the comeback. Game 2, Joshi. Winthrop, they were behind, but this time they were out.
They're touching tips. So cute.
What?
I mean that's about it. You summed up the game already. What more do you want me to add to it? Supernova, they punch back.
Are you the catalyst? I don't know if that. All right.
I analyzed the graph as I saw it, and honestly, okay, the big thing is it feels as though you can't keep Quacker down. You can't keep a good man down. He's still firing back every single time. You gank him twice, who cares? You gank him 3 times, okay, maybe that's a little bit much, but he fights you back.
Congratulations on the analysis. I'm proud of you. Proud of you. Magical, I know you're talking about having potato brain too, but looking at that second game and the fact we have a game 3 on the horizon, where are you thinking about? Because we gotten to see highlights from both teams now. Thanks.
Wow. That's even worse analysis than mine.
What do you mean? It's Quacker. I quacked. I don't know what you want.
You're not going to talk about Sketch at all? That man did great.
I'm not touching whatever you have said with them with a 10-foot pole. So I will just say Quacker quacked.
Quacker quacked. Well, he is going to be our player in the game, despite a rough early start and honestly a really tough time trying to go into the jungle. He was able to draw enough pressure and still overcome some of the early game difficulties to be a big player in this last one. And hopefully we can get to see him play more of his style. With a little bit too much aggression going early on, he has been punished by the jungler, but we also can get to see that when he's allowed just time on his own to play in the top side of the map, Natist01 is the best player in the league.
Natist01.
Oh my goodness. I mean, Quacker was definitely someone through Challengers, and we touched on it on the top of show as well, even though it seems like ages ago.
Wait, can I just say, is it Natist or Nate Street?
Nate test.
No, Nate Street. I think it's Nate Street.
Nate. All right. Well, I'm really excited for our next series of the day. If you two already have brain mush at this level, at this point, but hey, we still have a game 3, and you know, if you guys are gonna have mushy brain, well, at least we'll play a dumb little game to try and get a little bit of the.
I have a topic already.
I have a topic too.
Like, can I explain what we're doing though?
I still don't understand what we're doing.
All right, so we're going to be doing little presentations going on into our next series. This could be about our players. This could be about our teams. The thing is I have made the presentations, and your co-caster is actually going to be picking your presentation topic. So your job is to be giving a thorough, planned, well thought out presentation, despite the fact you have not made the presentation or the
I have a question, teacher. So where's the present station at?
I'm gonna share the presentation.
Oh, is it a present station?
All right, Joshi, you said that you had a topic for Magical.
Yeah. For Alex, you will be presenting on why I have left my wife and have decided to become a Throp instead.
Oh. Well, okay. Sorry, Joey.
Oh wow. All right.
Gotta take it off. Okay.
Stay out the way. Ring up the wedding. All right. Here we go. The presentation. Gotta reintroduce it. Full presentation here.
So, honey, I'm sorry, but you know, you just don't run it down enough when we play League. In fact, usually when we play League, you're playing Lissandra and you're playing very passively. And I need people who are confident in their gameplay and who are willing to just run it down at every stage, good or bad. And that is what Drops Out will do for you. They'll constantly play aggressively. It'll give you that energy you need for the day. You know, it'll invigorate you and make you feel powerful. That you too can hashtag Drops Out. You know, As you know, I'm always right about everything I say. I'm never wrong about anything either. So when I say that Winthrop are the team that you need to look at, and this is why I've left my wife for Winthrop. It's because I am always right. I am constantly correct on what I say. And if you don't believe me, you just made this cat sad, you know? It's just, how could
Wow.
you? I can't believe you've done that.
Hey, you're doing a really fantastic job here, Magical. Keep going.
Oh yeah, and see, we're so confident in what we can do. We could literally tell you what we're going to do in Twitch chat, and it doesn't matter because we're still gonna run it down. We're still gonna fight aggressively, and we're just gonna win. We're gonna win, and that is the face of winning right there. That is the face of winning. Not eating your breakfast.
Thank you.
Nice. That felt so rehearsed.
That was
Very well rehearsed.
Putting my ring back on.
That was something. That was something. I will give you that. But hey, even if they didn't win that second game there, considering that this is Winthrop going up against the #1 seed at this point, I mean, Joshi, this is still a really competitive, really fun series to watch.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Supernova have gotten ahead in both early games has spoken a lot about their ability to make early game plans. Now, the question is always, how do they team fight after that? Because Winthrop have definitely been doing quite well, and that is why I have also decided to become a Throp and run out in the wilds of wherever it is that Winthrop is. Is it St. Louis? I want to say St. Louis.
Oh my goodness.
Somebody's going to have to Google that one for me. Twitch chat, remind me where Winthrop University actually is.
All right, it's
Well,
my turn
will
to pick
they
for
look
him.
it up? Yeah, Magical, you get to pick a topic.
All right,
For Joshi.
in terms of Subway sandwiches,
No.
rate the two teams and why they're each of
No.
the sandwiches as well.
No.
You have to tell me what type of meat, condiment, and bread they are as well.
I don't know. It sounds like the teacher is not very happy about your
Why don't we
presentation
look at
choice.
as we have a couple of
Hold
minutes
on,
before
hold
we
on.
head into the
You
game.
said I could choose the topic, and I warned you that you weren't going to be ready for it.
I'm gonna veto your topic. You'll revise a little bit. Let's look at
My
Supernova.
topic is amazing.
Let's look at Supernova heading into this next game because they're one game away being that step closer to making their way back in
My
Challengers.
genius is being limited here.
All right, Alex, let's go. Come on.
My genius is being limited.
I believe in you.
Why do I have to do it?
Just make the topics. Josh
I made the topic already.
I hate everybody here. All right.
My new Subway order this time is the Subway Supernova. It comes with all kinds of different ingredients every single time, and it has been all the rage. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but the Subway Supernova was actually originally developed in 1920 by Mark Merrill himself, and only now are we releasing it a century later for everybody to really enjoy. The Supernova has all kinds of different ingredients on it as well, including... Next slide.
Did you even reference the slide once?
Yeah, it's a making
Comeback.
It's a
Comeback.
100-year-old
All right,
recipe,
all right.
including Chad's cat. This is the main ingredient of the Supernova Subway Slam. You make sure you get a little bit of the cat on each side, and by putting your arms in the air and by making sure you harvest it in only humane ways, we make sure to preserve all of the flavor and all the salt that Chad is always willing to put forward into the game. And that is why everything in the kitchen sink is also included in all of these sandwiches. And part of why, whenever we look at it, you have to look from the top lane to the bottom lane. Every single role is important in the way that they are actually playing. You have the Quacker bread, you have the Trevor bread, and in between them is a frog in the mid lane. And the way that they have been playing here in the mid lane has been fantastic. I must tell you, seeing everything that we have been getting from the squad has been looking good. But the big thing they always have to make sure of is whenever you're eating the Subway Supernova is that it is so large and so able to go towards the next qualifying match that every time you eat it, you are going to be spilling your milk on the keyboard in the middle of a fight. And unfortunately, that is why we cannot recommend eating a Subway Supernova in the middle of the game. It's why you save it for the pre-shows when we don't have a game actually going on. And unfortunately, I don't have any more to demonstrate it yet again. But this is why the Subway Supernova is ready to make a comeback.
Zero is like,
salute the flag.
All right.
She's like, Magical, you can't derail this.
All
There's
right,
no way.
all right.
There's no way you can ruin
There's
this.
no more derailing. I am done with you two for this series. Our draft is ready. I need to go lay down or something. Goodbye.
I just have to say, I see 2 people in chat say that they want Subway now, so I feel like we have done our job.
We have done our jobs. And there we go. We get game 3. Winner takes moves on to the qualifying match. The loser is not knocked out of the promotion tournament, but they will be in the lower bracket and have to fight their way back to make it to their own qualifying match here. And looking at how we are going into this game, it does seem that Winthrop are going to stay on the blue side with Supernova on red.
Yeah, and it is going to be an interesting spot, right? We did see that Supernova used this last game in order to make sure that they could get counterpick for their top side in Quacker. Or at least they could protect the Olaf a little bit. Now, ultimately, the counterpick worked really well here for Quacker. The fact that he got this Olaf into Denethor's Cassante was really good. It was not because of the matchup that he ended up falling down behind relatively early on. It's because Trickster is spending so much time there. And now, Supernova on the same side, very likely to do something similar. Winthrop have already changed up their bans. They have not banned out the same champions for Winthrop, which leaves the Nocturne open again for music.
Yeah, but banning that Viego, banning it to Darius early on in the draft as well, almost makes me wonder if we're going to see Winthrop maybe grab an early Camille here in this draft. The Maokai, I would imagine, is going to be the first pick here since that has been left open. And yep, I'm going to grab that, but they don't have to worry about Trickster on that Viego this time. And so maybe it's going to be music onto that Sejuani we were talking about before, but I'm really looking still at that top lane, what they want to grab for Denethor.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be a lot of pressure getting put onto Denethor because it has been an opportunity for Denethor to kind of strut their stuff so far in these different games. And the Supernova are going to be responding at this point. We get to see a little bit of a different look coming out from Supernova's bottom lane. We saw the Draven, then we saw the Sivert. This time, we're not leaving it to last pick. Instead, we are going to be grabbing Sketch Zeri relatively early on in the game. And that says to me that Supernova are going to be playing a little bit of a slower style in this one, right? We have been seeing that the Zarya has been really relying on the game going a little bit later in order to really find their stride.
Yeah, okay, there we go. I was about to say that Bel'Veth. I'm like, whoa, that would be quite a spicy pick there for music. But the Sejuani is really kind of what we expected. But there are a lot of these powerful picks left open. That Azir that we've been seeing banned a lot and be very important for a lot of teams taken here with that Renekton as well. So for Quacker, do you lock in that Olaf right here? We were talking before. It's not necessarily the worst matchup to go up against Renekton.
Honestly, would be really excited to see it here. The other thing is always the Cassante, which is okay, but it's not as though we see a ton of strong counterpicks coming out from Quacker. It really is. He plays one of his champions or bust, and this is his opportunity to play up against Winthrop. And we have to remember that the 28% win rate that we have been seeing for the Olaf has been largely based on the fact that Quacker has been winning a lot with it. He is single-handedly keeping this champion in the meta. And with the Sejuani as well to try and help out towards the top side, this is a fearsome 2v2 for Supernova.
Yeah, and where we've been seeing Trickster play a lot around that top lane beforehand, when you have a Sejuani and an Olaf combination, Trickster has to pretty much set a camp up there. He has to be a tree that is not moving from that top lane, because ever if he leaves it alone, you better bet music is ganking that lane over and over again, especially because, as you talked about, having that Zeri already locked in for Sketch, kind of that same game plan that we've been seeing from Supernova. The bot lane, kind of just there. Just scale up for the later parts of the game. Really play around the top lane.
The good news for Trickster this time is if he commits to spending so much time in the top lane, it's not as though music is going to farm out of control like he did in the last one, right? We got to see that music was like, ooh, you are a top lane? Well, let me take these camps. Ooh, some chickens. Ooh, some rocks. I do love some of those. Ooh, the wolves are looking mighty fine this time of year. Can't really do it in such one. You really actually have to be trying to counteract a lot of things that Trickster are going to be doing in this one. But with the bottom side mostly untouched from both sides, with only Zeri showing from Sketch, we are seeing that Supernova taking away some of the more classic things that Winthrop have had a lot of success on, and making sure that Chookies will not have at least the same champion that has given them a lot of headaches so far.
Yeah, well, Winthrop, they're taking away a lot of the power from Robbie Bob, another collegiate mid laner playing for Supernova here, the collegiate back-to-back champion, Robbie Bob. So they understand how he can play against Sword here, especially that Yone, how powerful that can be. But there are some other picks that we haven't really seen Robbie Bob play for a while. He was really kind of known for a lot of these melee mid laners. The Sylas coming here. I really like the Sylas with the Sejuani as well.
I mean, it's a really good combination with the Sejuani, but it is a tough matchup in isolation going into the Azir. You are so reliant on landing those stuns in order to really have an opportunity to play here in the mid lane. And so, Robbie Bob has not necessarily always been known for his strongest play in the early laning phase, but it does also allow Robbie Bob to lean into one of his strengths, which is side laning later on in the game. And, of course, you have this very strong ultimate to pick up from Maokai, but that is the main one that you're going to be looking to grab every single time. And so, a bit of an interesting pick coming out from Supernova right now when they are in a Game 3 situation, a do or die. They are going to be putting on Robbie Bob on a champion we haven't necessarily seen him have his best games on throughout, but the fact that they choose to pick it here, the confidence they are choosing to show with this character, gives me a lot of hope for the way that Supernova can close it out.
And holding on to counterpick for support as well, giving Trevor whatever he wants to play up against, whatever Shookies is going to bring it to the table, and it's going to be that Aphelios Renekton bot lane. Something that can play kind of aggressive early on, but kind of similar vein that we were talking about before. Not really going to be the most proactive early on. Really does want to kind of get towards those first items. And look, I thought it was going to be the Renata Glosk for a second. I was like about to say, oh, like, whoa, that is a look for Trevor, but he's going back to the Alistar.
Yeah, and this, again, a lot of dive coming out from Supernova, but a lot of anti-dive coming in from Winthrop. It feels as though both teams end up going back to the places they were in the first place. We saw in Game 2, Supernova, again, choosing to play the dive. In Game 1, they were playing the dive with the Nocturne and the Rel. This time, it is going to be, can Winthrop withstand all of these engages that Supernova are going to be throwing their way? They did a good job in Game 1. They stopped a lot of the important engages later on, and this time they once again have fantastic scaling tools if they are allowed to get there.
Yeah, and this is actually really exciting for both of these teams, and going into such a crucial match here. Match point for either one of them. Winner takes all. It moves on into the qualifying match where they can win that one and get their ticket into the NACL. Winthrop could be the second ever collegiate team, or Supernova can get themselves back into the NACL for 2024. But here we are. We are loaded up on to the Rift, Josh. And like we said, there's so much importance for both of these squads facing off against one another. Let us know who you think is going to win in the chat, as we're actually going to hear from Mobility and how important it has been for Winthrop to play with everybody in person.
Yeah, it's been pretty fun seeing the boys and being in person. It's always better to be in person, I think, than online. It's always nice to be able to get up out of scrims, whether you're mad or happy, and just laugh and be around them or go get food together.
Yep, I mean, turns out hanging out with your buds is a little bit better than trying to do it online. But I do want to take you through a little bit of the opportunities that we have been having from the side of Winthrop throughout the course of this split, right? Because this was a team that was completely revamped between the spring qualifiers and the summer qualifiers, right? An entirely new squad, head to toe. And while they had uninspiring performances, shall we say, in the spring, this has been a very consistent summer coming in. They've gotten second at 3 consecutive events. The qualifier into the open qualifier into the, open qualifier, right? The double layer that they have there. They got second. They went 4-1 in the Swiss. They got second in the first qualifier. They got 4-1 again in the second Swiss, and then they only got knocked out in Game 3 by Coachify to get third place in the second qualifier. This has been a team that has been consistently top of the Tier 3 ecosystem this time around, and we're getting to see exactly why now that they're taking one of our Challengers League teams to a really tough position for them to try and actually close this one.
Especially after such a well-fought Game 1, right? Where from the brink of annihilation, they dragged that game back and got us here to this point. They got to do it once more, though, as Quacker really battling against Denethor, and this is the power he brings and why you should know his name.
Wow, what a great aggression coming out from this top laner, showing he really is the natist in this game. It is so tough for Denethor to try and come back from this kind of position with the teleport and the wave actually crashing. It means that by the time Quacker gets back in towards the top lane, the wave will be effectively frozen for him.
Yeah, he's got so much power now that he's going to bring back to this lane, and kind of what we're talking about. That Renekton matchup against Olaf, it's an okay matchup for Renekton, but you've got to be so careful, especially against someone like Quacker, who is really good on this Olaf champion.
Yeah, it has definitely been one of the best things that he has had throughout the course of his career. And we get to see that as he's hitting all of these right, he has the ability to get level 2 at the same time. And as soon as he does, just starting to run down Denethor, not a whole lot for this Croc to really do. And I love the Q flash coming out from this Olaf, making sure that the Q is going to land, no real way to dodge it, finds the solo kill, and puts himself in a dominating position for this game.
Comes back into the lane. We already got that early TP out of Denethor as well, so this Croc with the wave frozen there is going to struggle. And we were talking about how Trickster, we kind of expected him to play so heavily around the top lane again to try to put Quacker behind. Well, you don't really have those avenues anymore. He has now gotten quite a lead, and with the wave frozen there, Quacker can just play the patient game, and anytime he's like, you know what, I've landed a couple undertows now, I can engage.
It's also worth noting that this was a player that was not in Challengers League in spring. They had to try and earn their way there after, the roster shuffles that we were seeing after the tumultuous beginning of the summer split. Quacker is a player that we were all very excited to see come into the league and showcase that while they might have a limited champion pool and a very direct style, happened to be a really good meta. He was showcasing a lot of cool things, and as you were talking about, was even taking players like Fake God to some brutal games in the last weekend, or the last week of the regular season.
It's a very impressive story for Quacker, and that's why we say where we really saw him was in the promotion tournament for summer when he subbed in. It's not like he had played a whole split with the team. He subbed in at the last minute for AoE to step in for Gamsu so that AoE could re-qualify and get promoted back into the NACL for summer. And it was on this champion, it was on this Olaf that he had done so for AoE and had looked so good on.
Really excited to hopefully continue to see this player going forward. The rest of the map, though, has been relatively quiet because the solo kill happened so early on. Neither jungler in a position to do much about it. But here in the mid lane, another player that I have been very excited to see continue to move back to their original position in Sword, right? Had time to play on TSM way back in the day. Unfortunately, didn't have the greatest showings there, but is now trying to find an advantage here up against Robbie Bob and consistently pushing in the Silas. Will give them some freedom to actually try and make these plays happen. But Trickster, setting up a camp, he's got the pitches all ready to go.
As we expected, though, from Trickster, we expected him to try to make a play around this top lane to really help out Denethor. But this is the problem. You're facing off against an Olaf Sejuani lane. They can start running it down. They can get the stun. They're looking to chop down the tree as well because they got the axes and they got the power, but they got to be careful because Denethor, he's level 6, but it's level 6 back from Quacker, getting damage. They're going to lose music first, but Denethor now in a bad spot, and it's going to be the Axeman. Chop, 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 chop down the trees as he's got a double kill.
Well, looks like 87 axes going through at this point. Not a whole lot left for them to do. It's so tough to try and gank into an Olaf, and Quacker once again comes out on top. 3 kills to his name, and 1,000 gold already going over to Supernova. So far, so much of Winthrop's game plan has been relying on trying to keep Quacker down. This time he is so far ahead from this position. He should be able to try and take control of the rest of the game. With the number of melee champions that Winthrop have already picked up, it is going to be so tough for Winthrop to try and fight back.
Yeah, you can already see that now Quacker's coming back into the lane. Vampiric Scepter in his inventory. And how much Denethor has been losing out on this top lane. Sure, you got the kill onto music, but you gotta stop this Olaf because that was a wild interaction right there. But Robbie Bob, he'll be fine. He's got music in back pocket.
Yeah, the flash comes through from both of them, but this time there's one extra friend coming through from Supernova, and they are coming in with a vengeance, starting to look a little bit more like the series that we had yesterday, right? The first game coming through from Winthrop versus Team Ambition, reasonably close. Winthrop claws their way back on in, but Supernova just doing the exact same thing and looking in a very similar fashion to the way that Winthrop were able to take down Team Ambition yesterday. They're coming through, and Trickster, you can try.
Yeah, you can try here, but he's about to have Ragnarok back up, and so you go for this play, and there it is. You got it right back on time, and you're a tree against an axe. You never stand a chance. The flash coming in. He was another double kill. 1v2. He's got everything, all the power in the world. One more undertow double kill.
go next. That is it. That's the second time that we see a double kill coming out from Quacker. And if I know people in Twitch chat were not happy about the player of the game last time, but can we at least agree that he is set up to be player of the game this time? That's the second time he turns around one of these ganks, absolutely throttles the top lane, and Denethor should not have a way back in. The first dragon of the game going over to Supernova, and they're even looking for a gank immediately after.
Looking for the bot lane play, looking for mobility, but he's got red-white.
Nice.
Wants to fight. That's going to be the lightning crash. You got to be careful still. You're fighting against Aphelios with the perfect gun setup. You got to get the stun onto him, and now he's not got the guns that he needs to fight back.
Oh my god, you guys, I've been a Trevor fan for so long. I don't remember what the rest of the copy pasta was like, but man, he waits for the flash coming through from ability, says, I am not throwing out any single spell until you use your flash, takes them back. A fantastic play coming out from Supernova this time around, and they are winning not just the top half, but the bottom half as well.
This is kind of going back to that quote we saw in Game 1 from Quacker, where he's like, yeah, we expect it to be a quick series. Well, Game 1, Winthrop were able to claw back the game, but Game 2, it ended up being slightly more Supernova favored, and now Game 3, it is really Supernova favored.
It is really Supernova favored. I'm really sorry that you just left Joey and had to become a throp for
I
this.
know.
This is,
I can't believe you've done this to me.
We're calling them all back into the pasture. It is time for them to go home. Supernova is ready to go, and I feel a little bit vindicated, right? On the one hand, I was expecting Denethor to really showcase a lot of great plays, a lot of good counter picks, and to his credit, Games 1 and 2, we got to see that version of him, but Game 3 so far has been all Supernova. It's all Quacker, and now seeing some skirmishing around this. Trickster still waiting around, trying to be in fog of war.
Yeah, waiting it out. That's going to be the dash over the wall. Unfortunate for Trickster, he was not able to follow it up with that twisted advance. Instead of getting anything, he realizes, all right, we've got to make a play work. We have to have something go right on the map for the Throps Out squad, but unfortunately, they just don't have anything they can really play around.
Yeah, and now Supernova, this is going to be the big question, is how do they close this one out cleanly? They have had bigger leads and still lost from this kind of position, Alex. We need to see them continue to try and make plays. Now, luckily, they have the tools to do that relatively easily. Music not on the Viego this time, instead on the Sejuani, has the ability to just be aggressive.
Oh,
and
nice dodge there from Robbie Bob. So clean.
Now this is your time, right? That is the ultimate down from Sword. Let's get ready to go for a fight. He has no flash. Let's start looking to throw out the Glacial Prison relatively quickly here in the mid lane and get Robbie Bob to a position where he can at least start competing with his side lanes to actually be the MVP of the game.
Yeah, but at this point, is there really going to be competition? There's a 5-0 Olaf, Josh.
No, but he can try.
Yeah, you can try all you want, but I think you're going to have to get a lot of kills very shortly for that to happen, because I don't think you're going to catch up to Quacker at this point. He's already got that Ravenous Hydra completed, nearly got the full stacks on that as well, so he's going to constantly be pushing back this lane. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing Quacker start moving around the map, but Robbie Bob is at least trying something. He is looking for a play on his Sword. 1v1, and he's got the power to take down Sword.
Great solo kill. A big thing there. Robbie Bob moving over to block out Sword's path of retreat. Because remember, when Azir dashes to his soldiers, if he hits someone, he stops. And with no flash, no other way to get around, easy solo kill coming out from Robbie Bob. And this side is really starting to pay off. Been landing those stuns, been creating opportunities to be up on this Azir. And now going to be giving him even more money. Let's spread the love a little bit, right? There's going to be a couple more plays going right on over towards the Silas. As Trickster comes through, same problem actually starting to emerge in this game, as I said was probably not going to happen. He is so far behind.
Hello, Quacker. I said he was going to start roaming around the map, and I am right. The flash coming in from Trickster, but you got no way out.
Easy plays coming through from Supernova, and it really makes you wonder where this team was earlier on in the day, right? You needed to see this in Game 1, the absolute cold stone killer plays they're always looking for. And I know as we start looking at this was a team that, again, ended up getting 9th in the regular season here for the Challengers League, but there's still been a lot of bright spots for this team. It's not as though this team was not able to have good games. And we get to see so much of their game plan, as we were talking about and have talked about so many times, was about making sure their top lane had the tools to be really aggressive. And once they were actually ahead, they also played some fairly decent League of Legends around the map.
Yeah.
It was all about how they could take over from that position once they had the advantage.
Yeah, it's not like Supernova were a team that didn't win any games, right? They won 10 of their games. They were a team that were able to take games off of teams like the Skies. They were able to take down Cincinnati Fear, another one of our top teams, and look good in some of those games. It's just unfortunate that we had a very stacked NACL this summer.
Yeah. So the question will be, can this team close it out? Will we get to see another massive comeback coming out from Winthrop? I'm actually a little bit surprised at how little damage we have seen Quacker do towards the structure. He does get the second plate of the turret, but he needs to get a lot more than that, right? With so many kills, it's honestly a wonder that Denethor is still managing to farm this much. I would have expected that Quacker would just be going for some of these big fights. He's already demonstrated that he can go 1v2 toe-to-toe with Trickster and Denethor.
But I kind of like that. I kind of like this from Supernova, because the one thing we were talking about before is that when we look at Quacker, he feels like he's got to put the weight of the world on his shoulders constantly. That he has to play this risky style, always look to be the carry. But this time he's playing a little bit, like, yeah, he played aggressively early. He's got the leads. He's playing a little bit more cautiously. He's slowing it down just a bit because he knows there's not really much that Denethor can do to him. There's no way that he can claw back into this game. So instead, he's just slowly...
So he's letting him farm?
No, he's just slowly suffocating him. Slowly getting these plates and making it so that Denethor is never really going to ever keep up with Quacker.
We'll take another check in with that in a moment. We are looking at a potential dive coming through from Music, just hovering around towards the bottom side instead. Trying to do a little bit more damage to the structure. They already picked up the second dragon of the game, leaving Supernova an advantage everywhere on the map. And now, as Music is moving in towards the rest of the jungle, he should be able to pick up even more of his opponent's jungle camps. Trickster falling so far behind in terms of farm from this position. The question then becomes, can Trickster do much of anything? We saw, I mean, he was kind of a non-factor in game one after the early ganks.
Yeah, I mean, really, Trickster, how he became important was that he was securing the objectives for the team, right? That kind of became his duty. I think maybe in this game that is something he can do again, but when you're losing bot lane turret, Tier 1, mid lane tier 1 as well at the same time. All this gold being picked up, the flash coming in from Supernova to get away from Sword, and even with the engage coming in from Shoki's looking to get on top of Sketch, it's just not working out for them. They got a lot of damage onto him, but now with Robbie Bob there to make sure they get the kill onto Azir initially, they have the fight on the other side. Look at Denethor. It's a 2v4. They're trying to get the kill onto Robbie Bob. It's taking forever for them to finally shut him down. They do eventually do so. The flash comes in, but the twist in advance. This could be the comeback coming in from Winthrop, getting 2 kills, waiting to give that gold over to Mobility, because that's who they need the gold to be on, but eventually they realize that's just not going to happen.
And as the teleport goes out, we finally see Quacker up the top side starting to wail away on these structures. Going to be getting a lot of damage on the second one, but some much-needed gold, as you're talking about, getting put into the pockets of Winthrop from this position. Suddenly, you have some inklings of a hope, right? Giving the money over to Mobility, giving the money over to the rest of the team is going to help out a little bit, but honestly, very surprised Sword doesn't even throw out the Shuriman Shuffle, the Emperor's Divide, at all during that last fight until after Robbie Bob gets in at all. And from that position, he's already dead. So we get to see Sketch just walks away from that one, does have the extra shutdown that they will not be able to pick up, and instead they just get a couple of these other kills while we go back to live. The Rift Herald has been picked up. That's going to be another turret that will be going down.
It's another turret, and even though, as you said, it's inklings for Winthrop here, right? They get some gold, especially for Mobility, and how important it is going to be for this Aphelios to get the gold. What happened elsewhere? They lost the turret top lane. They lost the Rift Herald. As you said, that's more gold that Supernova can pick up soon. And you look at where a lot of that gold is allocated, it is still on Quacker. He has a 650 gold bounty still on his head, and I don't think there's any hope Denethor can ever stop him.
It's so tough. You see Mobility like hovering over, is like, do you need me to help at all? The big thing that we're going to need to see for Supernova is if they can get vision control around where Quacker is, then Quacker can do whatever he wants, right? He's already got the Radiant Virtue. He's got, what is he thinking about? Looks like a Death's Dance likely to be next on the cards coming through. He's got so much extra money from this position. If you can start unlocking these tier 2 turrets, 2 kills every time you kill one of them, it's so much extra money. But with another minute until the next dragon, Quacker with no teleport, I wonder if he's going to join the rest of his team to make sure that disaster doesn't happen again.
Right now, we are at Raid Boss Quacker status. It is, everybody is going to be needed from Winthrop if you're hoping to kill this Olaf, and even then, you're still going to lose a couple members along the way. It is, I think, the game plan for Winthrop is merely containing him, keeping him on those side lanes. As you said, without that TP, you can't really join in the rest of the fights. It's making sure that you gain a lot while you bleed out some towards Quacker.
Yeah. I also am starting to wonder, right? Quacker got burned a couple of times trying to go for some of these camps in game 1.
Yeah,
Will he try to do something similar?
He's got Hex Gates this time around. It's a lot more mobility that he now is provided. And with that TP coming in from Sword, as they pop the Eye of the Rift Herald in the mid lane to crack that tier 2. I'm curious, does it get the charge? We'll get the charge and take the turret.
That's a lot of money getting picked up by Music once again, and Quacker is here to set it up. And Supernova, they're not dropping any of the waves like they did last time. Remember when they were going for this big play in one of their previous games, and they just let so many minions die up in the side lanes? This time, their waves will be pushing towards the other side, and that's part of why you see Winthrop committing towards the top side. Quacker doesn't need to be there with them because he knows that Winthrop have already given up.
Unlike in games 1 and 2, where the Dragons were really even between the teams for a long time, this is already soul point potential for Supernova. Not a single Dragon has even been attempted by Winthrop with how far behind they already are.
I've had an opportunity to, right? There's no real way for them to even get out here. So, you know, as we start looking at the rest of this game, right, there's a little bit of hope, and his name is Mobility. And this was a player who, honestly, I think the funniest thing coming out from Mobility was the disagreements, shall we say, that he had with the qualifiers casters in terms of whether or not he should be considered one of the MVPs or the all-pro nods coming in for the qualifier situation. And we did see some pretty good play from him earlier in this series. Excited to see what they will be able to do.
We saw some yesterday, too.
Yeah. He was good on the Challengers League teams when he was substituting in as well. This is going to be the opportunity for him to try and earn his way back.
And it is really going to be about putting the carry pants on in this game to be the power for the team. And I think it's not just going to be him, but the team peeling back for him. And I think that was a big problem that Winthrop had in game 2. When you look at some of those fights where it looked close, it looked like Winthrop were kind of clawing their way back in. Well, Mobility got caught out twice in those last team fights, and he was the big power for the team. If they cannot keep him alive, pumping out that damage in these fights, there is no hope for Winthrop.
So as we start looking towards the Baron buff as well, it's also going to be entirely whether or not Supernova chooses to do this relatively early on. Zeri's not the greatest Baron taker in the world, but Olaf does make up for that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Now as they start to move in, we get to see a little bit more tools coming through from Trickster, right? He does have all of these saplings, the little children to throw around, but he hasn't been able to actually get in towards the rest of the game. At least he knows where Supernova are.
Kind of just keep him contained. Again, it's just waiting it out, but at this point, you're 7,000 gold behind. Now, it's not like the last time. Not like in game 1 when they fell behind 8,000 gold and they were able to claw their way back in. This is a lot sooner into the game when it's a lot more impactful that you are so far in the hole, and you look at the itemizations coming in from Supernova. A lot of their members are trying to get those 2-item spikes while you're only getting the item. For many of the members of Winthrop, they're still so far behind on some of their key members like Sword.
Fortunately, Sword's build does no damage.
Not at all. None whatsoever.
Like, when he gets to the Nashor's Tooth, you know, he will get to start thinking about playing the game, but right now he's mostly just an ultimate. In fact, Denethor is also mostly just a stun from this position. You have so much pressure being put on Mobility. The rest of the team has to just sit there and make sure that he stays alive. At the same time, like, Mobility on this Aphelios, he has to try and go forward, right? Aphelios trying to play defense is not going to be cutting it whatsoever. So I really want to see Supernova start to get set up, showcase whether they want to be playing for the Baron or if they're going to be prioritizing actually picking up this Hextech Soul so that they can close out the game. Because the later this game goes, the more opportunities Winthrop will have to come back. And Supernova have not been putting their foot on the gas in a while.
No, it has taken them more of the pressure and the plays from Winthrop they were able to capitalize, especially in game 2, that kind of got them those leads. Here in game 3, early on, kind of like in game 1, they were making these great plays, but now things have really slowed down, and it feels like they don't know how to force Winthrop out of this defensive curl that they've put themselves in, this position where they're not really leaving. Look at how they even venture out. Winthrop are playing so tepidly because they know that if they get caught out, that's the game, that they're going to get pushed back and they're going to lose right off the gate. But this also means that Supernova really can't play aggressively themselves. They can't really look for these plays because they know if they give any step back for Winthrop, then suddenly this game is dead even.
Dead even? I mean...
Hey, if it wasn't for game one, I wouldn't have thought that.
All right, I'll give you that one. There are still some ways for Winthrop to try and come back into this one, but look at how Supernova have committed their vision. There's a lot of wars from the bottom side of the map. They have said, we are going to be playing for the Hextech Soul first. We do not believe that you can actually go for this Baron. But we also have to remember that Winthrop do a lot of damage to the Baron very, very quickly with the Azir, with the Aphelios, and so this is gonna be a very different style. I said last time that Supernova letting Winthrop go for the Baron, like, it made sense, right? They had the big ultimate, but this time it might be a little bit fake for Supernova to even let Winthrop go for it, because I think Winthrop could burn it. They have the DPS to make sure it happens.
It'd be dicey. You go for the Hextech Soul and let Winthrop possibly go for the flip at the Baron, or do you try to force a fight, get a pick beforehand, and then make sure you can secure that Soul?
Yeah. Oh, Quacker. Saw something similar happen last time. People getting caught over on this side of the map.
Getting a lot of damage. Looking at Trevor, ready to engage, and it's Trickster they found. Then they burst it down. There goes the smite, that pick that Supernova were waiting for.
I mean, that just guarantees them whichever objective that they actually want to try and go for, right? You have access to the Baron. They're already here. They're only sending one player to go deal with the Dragon.
Yeah, this could actually be kind of dicey here for Supernova because it is a 4v4 fight, and Winthrop, if they're able to make this play, if they're able to find this pick, there's going to be the Twisted Advance, there's going to be the Nature's Grasp thrown out by Robbie Bob. He's going to force out the Dominance coming in from Denethor. But enough time is being burned here by Supernova. It's giving all the time from Sketch to take down that Soul, while Winthrop were not able to capitalize on the fact that it was a 4v4.
I love the temperance coming out from Supernova, right? Saying, hey, we don't actually need to fight. You just need to make sure you're doing nothing in this one. We will still be able to pick up the Dragon on the far side of the map. And they do just that. The Hextech Soul already picked up. And so, Winthrop, I mean, they are hoping that Supernova throws at the Elder Dragon for this one. And that's going to be their last opportunity to try and move forward in the upper bracket. Right, because again, as you already called out, they still have a lower bracket to potentially play through. That is one of the benefits of having won their first series. They have a shorter path that they would need to go through on the other side of the bracket if they were to drop here. But Supernova showcasing that they are still one of the teams that needs to be feared and honestly has a really good position to try and make it through to re-qualify for the Challengers League.
Winning this series gets them in the first of the 2 qualification matchups, which even if they lose that one, they have another chance at re-qualifying for the 2024 season. Of course, that is what you really want. Gives you so much to play around, and we've already seen how dicey these series can get here for Supernova. They give an inch over to Winthrop, but this time, it doesn't seem that they're going to do so. Playing a lot more cautiously, but also playing wisely around the map, constantly making sure that Winthrop have nothing to play for.
Nothing to play for at all. So I'm going to be looking at Chookies, right? He's going to be one of the big playmakers. We were saying that he was one of the fastest players coming up for Winthrop previously, but ooh, Trevor.
Sure, they have no idea. They're going to spot him out now, realizing the punt back in, that they're going to get at least one Glacial Frozen on into Trickster, trying to burst down the tree. He goes Golden to survive a little bit longer.
Oh, Sword.
But look at Sword. There goes your backline damage that you needed to rely on. As they get the damage to burst down mobility for a double kill to run down Winthrop. Nothing to do here but go home because they know that this is Supernova's game to dominate. Even Sketch saying, hey, Denethor, you got so close, but not enough.
And today, the house always wins. The reigning, defending team is going to be the one who's looking to be going for it. What are you doing?
He's gotten the waves. He's gotten the waves. Who can stop him at this point?
Who else would do that other than Trevor, just going right on in, making sure that no waves can get back on now. He did something similar earlier in the day, and Chookies not going to be able to take him down, but the base is opened up. The gates are open, and Supernova, 12,000 gold in the lead, opening up the base with the Turo Baron buff, are perfectly poised to move on to the next level.
This game not looking quite like the first, where there was those areas that Winthrop could come back into. This time, it is Supernova dominating these team fights. Like, look at that. Trevor, again, that's kind of reminiscent of one of the plays we saw in game 1, right? Where Trevor just was not spotted in one of those brushes.
Yeah. I also want to give props to Mobility, because oftentimes when you're playing a Zeri composition, people will be helping you, but Mobility was like, nope, I have to deal with the Croc all by myself. I'm an 80 carry, but I am still alive. And now Supernova, they are elixired up. They have everything they could possibly ask for. The Guardian Angel here on Sketch as well. Quacker ready to run amok. They have the Hextech Soul. They just need to make sure that they use this Turo Baron buff to the fullest, and we should expect this game probably going to end before that Baron buff expires.
That's a lot of damage on that subway damage dealt last team fight graphic from Quacker. I mean, I thought it was going to be Robbie Bob, since he did get a delayed triple kill in that fight. But this Olaf is showing why this has been such a powerful pick for Supernova throughout the NACL, throughout when he substituted in for AoE and was able to help them re-qualify for the summer season.
Yeah. Still, props to Winthrop for the games that we have been seeing come through. It has been an opportunity for them to play, and they're engaging right now.
You gotta engage, because right now, you need anything to work out, and unfortunately, it's way too late, because the power and the might of the galaxy is crushing them. It is Supernova looking to get back into the NACL for 2024, and they want an ace on the way out to take this series over Winthrop, knocking them into the lower bracket, continuing their run, getting themselves into the qualification matchup, and one step away, one series away from re-qualifying for the North American Challengers League.
Great series coming out from Supernova. Again, putting themselves so close to actually re-qualifying. The only team so far who is poised to re-qualify for the season a second time in a row. They did it with a different squad last time around. The org continuing to look good, but we finally got to see what happens when Supernova is unleashed, when Quacker is able to shake off the chains, and they look dominant in this one. They only need to beat the winners of the upcoming series in order to make sure that they continue to play in the Challengers League.
Yeah, and the thing is, game one, right now, kind of looking like a fluke there for Supernova. Saying, you know what, we made some mistakes. We were playing a little bit too greedy in certain areas against Winthrop. But games 2 and 3, they really made sure they showed why they deserve to get back into the NACL. Of course, they haven't quite finished that journey. They still have that qualification matchup. They still have left to play against the winner of the series that we still have left for today itself. But we are going to toss it to a break, and when we come back, we'll be back for our Verizon post-game interview with Sierra and one of the members of Supernova, so you won't want to miss it.
The LCS Challengers League is brought to you by Turo, the world's largest car-sharing marketplace. Find your drive.
Subway's now slicing their meats fresh. Try a new deli hero from the Subway series and taste the difference for yourself.
Hello, friends, and welcome to our Verizon post-game interview. I have Quacker here from Supernova after that 2-1 victory. Congratulations there. You managed to stay in this upper bracket. You're now one best of 5 away from getting back into the NACL. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I mean, it was a little bit of a rocky ride, that series, but I think towards the end of it, we kind of just figured out what they were trying to do, and then from there it was just easier. So yeah.
So let's dive a little bit more into the rockiness of it, because Supernova got off to a great start in game 1, and then all of a sudden Winthrop managed to get this comeback and take the lead in the series. And then, so how are you then, first off, how? You're so ahead at that point. Then second, where do you then readjust in this game 2 and 3 to make sure that you can come out on top?
Yeah, about game 1, I think part of why I got rocky, like we're a little bit rusty in terms of like match day. Like we've been practicing and stuff for sure, but like in terms of like playing a match, we haven't done that in almost a month, I think. So just a little bit rusty in terms of like our match day, like feelings and vibes. So I think there was maybe a little bit of nerves. And then other than that, I think they just had like a better scaling comp. That's my personal opinion. And so whenever we really couldn't close out the fights as cleanly as we wanted to, towards the later stages, it just definitely got hard from draft. But I mean, not that the draft was bad, it was just a combination of nerves and failure to execute on our side. So yeah.
And then it seemed later on in the game, especially looking at the game 3, that kind of the nerves were gone. You were gaming in particular. You're getting skull kill right off the bat, this double kill right off of the bat. once we got to this game 3, were you just kind of like, all right, well, let's wrap this up? Were they kind of disrespecting you a little bit on the top lane? Like, what happened there?
Yeah, for sure. They're absolutely disrespecting like the whole series, and I couldn't quite punish them like games 1 and 2 for it, but in game 3 I was like, all right, I got these guys figured out. They're not that good, so no shade, but yeah. So I just closed it out. It was simple. Yep.
That's fair. That's fair. You're familiar with their game at that point. There's no more surprises.
Yeah.
But you're talking about the nerves too coming into the first match of the day. Of course, you and Team Fish Taco are playing to keep your spots in the NACL. So do you feel like there's a little bit of a different weight on your shoulders when we're looking at this promotion tournament in comparison to these teams that are fighting to try and steal your spot?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we're supposed to be like the favorites because we're like the NACL teams getting relegated, and so there's like the burden of expectation there. But I mean, at least from what I've heard, like everyone thinks Mirage Alliance is one of the favorites, even though they're in the lower bracket. They might still just make the run, and so I guess that kind of lifts like the burden of expectation a little bit, just because some teams or some people don't even think that we're like necessarily like the number 1 most likely to qualify, even though we're like the first seed. So yeah, I mean, just going into it, don't think about it too much, and just play our game. So yeah.
That's fair. And then I want to hear from you too. Obviously, everyone has the most belief in their squad, but how do you think that Supernova will be able to make this run and make their way back into our spring split for NACL?
I'm not quite sure how the next match is going to go between Lit and TFT, but I think whoever wins, it shouldn't be too difficult of a opponent. Like I think, especially after this series, I'm feeling a lot better about our team's form and like how good we are. A lot more confident. So should be a pretty simple path to qualification in the next match. So yep.
All right. I like the confidence. Now, the last question before we do any sort of shout outs is, of course, after the performance that we got to see from you, especially in that third game, chat had a couple of different reactions, especially considering your name too, and I wanted to get your opinion on which was your favorite of the 3 iterations. So first off, especially after we got the double kill, Get Quacked, first one that we got to see. Second,
Yep.
Quack Attack. Third, the Quackening. Want to know which one is your favorite out of the 3?
Personally, I'll go with the Quack Attack. I think it rolls off the tongue pretty well, so that's been my favorite, and it's been just a staple since I've been a competitive player. So yeah, let's go with the Quack Attack.
Now chat knows what to be cheering on when they see you in that best of 5 going on to the spot. Alright, thank you so much for chatting with me. Before I let you go, do you have any final words or shout outs?
Shout out to my team. I think we're pretty crazy, and our mental has been iron hard, like iron steel, and and that's been good. Yep. Shout out to my coaching staff. I think they've been working hard during this off season, and then shout out to my friends and family watching. They've been supporting me a lot this season, so thank you. Yep.
Is it best of luck going on in your best of 5? Hopefully we get to see you take the stub, see you back in NACL. Have a good rest of your night, okay, Quacker?
Thank you. Yep. See ya.
Yeah. As for us, well, of course, we got to figure out who Supernova is going to be playing up against. We still have one more series on the day. It's going to be Team Fish Taco going up against Lit Esports. I think it's going to be a lit match all around, so make sure to stay tuned. Be back soon.
Subway refreshed their ingredients, their menu, and now they're slicing their meats fresh. That's why their new Subway Series subs are preferred by this champ.
And his future champ.
Pros who are talking heads prefer fresh sliced turkey.
And pros who use their heads prefer fresh sliced ham.
More deli meats are preferred by this QB.
And preferred by his old backup QB.
And if we prefer it, we know you'll prefer it too. Is this slice as good as your tennis slice?
I can't answer that, but yes.